Hi guys, welcome to yet another sound design slash mixing slash production tutorial video. I haven't done one of these in a while, and today I'm keeping things really quick and really easy. I will be demonstrating how you can build a really aggressive, distorted, epic, over the top rock bass sound using only plugins. I'm not using any amplifiers or output gear, and we're gonna do it on one channel without crazy routing or splitting the DI on 5 channels and treating them differently. And I mean, bass is really interesting because you can treat it in many different ways. I can think of maybe 5 different approaches I could have taken to get to this result. What I'm looking for, since we are working on more vintage blues rock song, I'm looking for aggressiveness in the mid-range of the bass and think of Ampeg full stack on fire or something, Ampeg on steroids. That's what I'm trying to do. Be warned, this is not a traditional bass sound, so if you're looking for that, this is not the video for you. So without further ado, let me demonstrate the raw DI and then the finished result. So that's a quite a big difference if you ask me. And I like really distorted and aggressive bass guitars in my productions. When you distort a bass, you just add more power to the song. You can hear the bass guitar on small speakers or small headphones. It just makes sense. And let me show you how I got here. I will not start with the first plugin in line, but I will start with the most important plugin, and probably this was how I started building this sound from the ground up. The main tone generator is this plugin, FabFilter Saturn, which is one of the most versatile plugins I know, and I use it all the time. What I'm doing here is I'm dividing the whole frequency spectrum in 3 different areas. So I'm treating the low end a bit on the cleaner side using this clean tape mode with not a huge amount of drive. I'm distorting the mid-range like crazy. I'm in this heavy saturation mode, which is really aggressive, with the drive knob really quite up. I'm not trying to blow up the top end that much. So in this warm tape mode, using a little bit more drive, I'm trying to round off the top end and really focus on this mid-range, because this will make the bass distorted, like running it through amp head without speakers. We need some speaker simulation, obviously. I'm using an impulse response of an Ampeg SVT 810 cab. One of the IRs is Sennheiser 421 mic, and another one is U47 Neumann style condenser mic. And this combination works quite well, and I think this is the preset and this is the combination I'm using on maybe 90% of every recorded bass that is being recorded here in the studio. So let me show you and let me demonstrate the difference it makes. I'll start with off and then I'll add them on. Getting there. Now, what I'm hearing is a bit of a muddy sound. It's aggressive, but still not aggressive enough. The level of the bass is going up and down, so I need to compress the signal. And with the IR, I'm noticing some resonance of the cab, so my low end is poking out too much, then disappearing, and I need to fix that. So first, I want more aggression and I want more clarity from the bass. So I'm adding a 1073 style of EQ in front. The big thing here is that I'm adding all the mid-range in the world around 1.5k. With this high Q knob in, I'm really focusing on the mid-range and trying to add harmonic distortion and ton of signal that the Saturn will work with. Trust me, it's gonna make the bass sound a lot better. Quite a bit better, right? Now, with all the mid-range in the world, let's add all the compression in the world. Here's an instance of an 1176 style of compressor. I don't know why, but on bass, this 8 to 1 ratio just works like magic. Even on my hardware warm audio unit, when you press that 8 to 1 button on bass, it just works, man. As you can see, I'm overloading the plugin as well, but I can't hear any audible digital clipping and some distortion, and I'm distorting like hell. So gain staging is very important, but if a red light goes here and there, especially on dirty sounds, I don't care if it sounds good. It's good. So let me demonstrate now the sound with the EQ and the compression from this 1176. Now, even with those 4 plugins, we are pretty much there. In normal circumstances, I would probably print this track to a separate track. So in the mixing process, I would have an interesting sound to work with, and I would treat that as a starting point. Now, a few more tweaks are needed in sense of additional EQ to make sure the bass guitar gels with the kick drum, maybe some additional compression. It all depends on the song and on the style. But since I'm already in the rough mix stage with this song, I will demonstrate the further steps down during mixing that I did in order to make the bass guitar more polished and to work with this song. So the first plugin in line is this instance of RBass, which I use all the time on bass. It generates subharmonics. It makes the low end of the bass guitar a bit bigger, a bit fatter. So yeah, here we go. Next up, additional processing with this shape spiral particles. This is one of my favorite plugins. And what I'm trying to do here is add a little bit of thickness, add a little bit more bite, and just a touch of sub-frequencies below 50 and some air on top. So with this instance of this plugin, I want to bring the mid-range even more in the focus on the bass guitar, because I know once I add the distorted guitars on top of this bass guitar sound, they will eat up a lot of the mid-range and they will clash. So I want to give the bass guitar a chance to stand in the mix and be really aggressive. So enough talking, let's hear the difference this plugin makes. Next up, this is a minor tweak really. It will help me even out the bass response and the low end in this track. I don't want some notes to jump and some notes to disappear. So I'm not doing much, just another level of security that my low end is gonna stay intact, because I'm overdriving the whole signal. I'm not using a clean DI that will help me have a clear low end. So I think this is not doing much, but I use it anyway. I think it helps just a little. Let's finish off with a round of EQ. This is dependent on the whole mix and how the bass guitar sits in the whole song. The two major moves I'm doing here is I'm adding this high mid range around 2K because I felt I needed a little bit more articulation and cleanness in that area. And I'm carving out some of the lower mid range to give the distorted guitar some space to breathe. Because stylistically I'm working with a vintage blues rock song, I want some imperfections. I want some overlap frequency wise. I'm not trying to make it all too separated and clean and modern because it will lose the point. Yeah. Hopefully this will inspire you to try and come up with some interesting bass tones. So until the next time, take care and see ya.